On the Mark podcast, bringing you facts, opinions, and personal experiences from the outdoor industry.
I got the opportunity to shoot an AR-15. That was one of the funnest experiences that I've had.
It's pretty exciting. It's a big rush.
Presented by Sightmark, an industry leader in optics, bore sights, night vision, and more. Make your mark. Welcome back to the On the Mark podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hamilton. Today, right before I walked into the studio, I got a little ping on my phone, and I just thought it was really cool. I got to give them a little shout out. This headline reads, West Virginia to give away guns, trucks, and piles of cash as a vaccine incentive. So if you're not aware, certain states have started doing what's called a vaccine lottery. And if you get the COVID vaccine, you get entered for a lottery to win some money. That really was not that appealing to me at all. But you start talking about giving away guns, trucks. I mean, I'm kind of on board with that. That was pretty cool. Just to highlight it real quick, says the giveaway will include 1.5 million grand cash prize, 588,000 second prize, full scholarships to any higher education institute in West Virginia, custom outfitted trucks, weekend vacations at state parks, lifetime hunting and fishing licenses, custom hunting rifles, and custom hunting shotguns. Now that's awesome. Texas needs to get on board with something like that. Maybe I would consider getting the vaccine at that point. That would be cool. But to kind of roll things in, I do have some people on the line. I got some guests here. Guys, one at a time. We'll start with Connor. Connor, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you having us on here. It's fun to do these podcasts. So my name's Connor Sharp. I'm one of the owners of Foxhole Armament. We've had this going for several years now. It's, it started as a hobby a long time ago, turned into, the passion, turned into the business. And it's been an absolutely awesome ride.
How'd you get started with Foxhole Armament? What made you want to start that?
Yeah, so I've been hunting my entire life, outdoors, all that kind of stuff. And, always tinkering. But then at the end of every day, I always find myself, when downtime, I start reading about and learning about, you read and learn about your passion. And so for me, it always been firearms, hunting, optics. At some point I stumbled across thermal and night vision like a long time ago. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Very expensive stuff. Probably not for me at the moment back, when you're a young buck. And,
sure.
And then slowly over time got into it and started, hunting night vision. Stumbled my way through that, got into thermal, and then you slowly start the upgrade game. And now, I find myself with, PBS 14s and night vision optics and thermal optics and thermal scanners and night vision. I mean, it's a phenomenal market. I'm very passionate about it. Just very fortunate to be doing what we're doing.
Well, tell me more about Foxhole Armament. What makes you guys different?
Yeah, so Foxhole Armament, we're a full-service gun store. We're located just outside of Omaha. So we do everything from, basic firearms, ammunition, all that stuff, into the optics and the specialty products. We also have, on this called Derik. Derik's our gunsmith, wealth of knowledge from him. And so we've started working our way, from basic gunsmith or basic gun store into more specialty, with the optics and such. And then, our hope is to keep transitioning this thing to where Derik can, spin off a whole custom line of firearms, precision rifles. We've set ourselves up, with some very credible partners. We haven't really released a ton of information about it yet, but our hope is, in a year from now to be a major player in the precision world.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so you mentioned we got Derik on the call too. Derik, say hi.
Hey.
What? Give me some background on you, Derik. What are you all about? You're the gunsmith there at Foxhole. How'd you get there?
Yeah, so I grew up around firearms with a military father. Loved hunting. Held my first revolver at like 5 years old. Wanted to be Wyatt Earp kind of guy.
Yeah, there you go.
And I went into the military. Spent 15 years as an infantryman in the Army.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. From there, wanted to pursue my passion of firearms since I could no longer run and gun after my medical retirement in 2014. So I went into Sonoran Desert Institute, gained my associate's degree through them, went in through AGI and obtained some certifications through them, opened up my own shop for a while out of Council Bluffs, Iowa, and then wanted to move to a smaller location due to the controversial times that they are. Wound up here, met Connor and James, the managing partners for Foxhole. Had an idea of starting up my own shop on the square, and they already had a storefront, and they were like, well, we want to get into the gunsmithing game. And I said, well, you want to get into the gunsmithing game, and I want to get into the gun manufacturing game. So let's make something happen, and here we are.
God puts people in the place that they're supposed to be at the right time, you know? That sounds like the perfect example of just putting people in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. Timing is everything. And it's amazing how, you know, three guys from totally different backgrounds and totally different areas of the world can get together and make something happen like this. I truly find it amazing.
Now, you said that you had a medical release. Are you okay with talking about that? What was going on with that?
Yeah. I was injured in combat in Afghanistan in 2013. I suffered a secondary IED blast. I was a staff sergeant squad leader exiting a vehicle, and we didn't see the secondary IED, so when I dismounted, secondary went off.
Wow.
It's nothing to the point where, I mean, there's guys out there that, you know, I will always take a knee to that have gotten a lot worse. I consider myself very fortunate.
Sure.
In the injuries that I sustained from it. But.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always hesitant to ask for information when it comes to stuff like that, because the last thing I want to do is make people relive any bad situations that they were in. But
right.
Thank you for sharing what you did, because, you know, people need to know that this kind of stuff is happening all the time. And, you know, people need to have that appreciation for the service that you provided for your country. And I just want to thank you again for providing that. Now, it's my understanding, I saw on the website, you actually got a degree in firearms technology. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Where do you get a degree like that? I didn't even know there was a degree in firearms technology.
So you can obtain it through several different means. There are quite a few traditional brick and mortar schools out there that you know, you can go and you can get an actual hands-on education with. And then you have schools like Sonoran Desert Institute. I don't know if that's a shameless plug or not, but, you know, I'm alumni, so whatever.
Oh, it's fine. I'll allow it this time.
But it's yeah. So I had a few, I have 3 kids of my own. So going off out of state to a traditional brick and mortar school, seeing how they are fairly well separated throughout the United States, but still outside of where my commute would be. So
Okay.
I decided to take the online path, which is through SDI, and I backed that up through an apprenticeship through a local gunsmith. He was a 30-year plus gunsmith, a Navy veteran, and asked him, you know, hey, I'm already taking school through them. I have my GI Bill, so they're paying me for it. Do you mind if I just train under you, so that way I can put some practical application to my theory? And he was all on board for it. So, you know, 2-3 nights a week after work, and if I wasn't loaded down with homework, I would go over to his shop, and he would have me breaking down, building, doing, you know, some fabrication as I started progressing in my experience.
Wow.
And then, excuse me. Yeah. From there, it just after I graduated, I wanted to get some certifications. That way, I had some hang-ups for customers to come in and see. So that's why I went through AGI after that.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, so I constantly talk about the number of new people that have joined the firearms industry in the last couple of years. And the reason I do is because I feel like there's a large audience out there that is starting from 0 miles per hour. And a lot of times us within the industry, we're running at 100 miles an hour all the time. And everything we do and say when we're talking to new people is completely over their head. I mean, things that are super simple, even when you talk about calibers and stuff like that. You being a an expert and educated in firearms technology. One thing, I'm just going to try and condense this into a short little thing, but could you briefly explain to us the importance and the difference in different barrel twists and what they do? That's one thing that when I was coming into the industry, first off, I grew up shooting firearms pretty regularly. I live on a family farm. We always had firearms. You know, I was the classic hand-me-down from my father and grandfather. I got all their firearms, and we shot our entire lives. But as I got older and actually more involved in the industry, I started learning about like the barrel twists and stuff like that. And I didn't really understand all that stuff when I started. What's the significance of the barrel twist, and what are some things to kind of help somebody that's brand new to the industry understand that a little bit better?
All right. So when you're speaking in terms of a barrel twist, let's take, for instance, the common barrel twist would be a 1-in-7 or a 1:7 twist in, say, an AR, your everyday AR-15 5.56 barrel.
Sure.
We'll even go out to, say, 16-inch 5.56 barrel. With that being said, that means that there is a complete 360 rotation, one complete turn every 7 inches.
Okay.
All right. And so when you hear of a barrel twist of 1-in-7, 1-in-8, 1-in-9, which are pretty common between your 223, your 5.56, and your 223 wild, you're actually, so that's how many inches per twist. And that's how fast that bullet is rotating upon exit. All right. So it is a common misconception that there is an arc to a round when you're talking about external ballistics. And what's actually happening is that arc is more of a constant up, because your barrel, looking through your barrel and your sight, you're actually bringing your barrel and you're moving it upwards when you're adjusting elevation, because that barrel doesn't really arc, the round doesn't really arc so much as it goes straight out, and then it does an arc downward once gravity starts taking hold and pushing that round down.
Okay.
Looking at it from a physics standpoint, I guess maybe I should back up and say that. So what you're doing is the internal ballistics is that twist rate is actually spinning that round to try and create as much or the least amount of resistance once it hits from internal to external ballistics. So that way you're able to have a flatter trajectory on that round by way of moving against, the dope, the barometric pressure and the wind and everything else.
Gotcha.
So that way you're able to, so it's spinning that round either slower or faster depending on that twist rate. So that way you're able to obtain the proper ballistic coefficient for the grain of projectile that you're using.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, I mean, so for me, what I've done is I've compiled like a list of things that I was unsure about whenever I started getting really involved into firearms. And that was at one of the top of the list for me, because I'd always see different barrel twist options. And I'm like, well, I don't know which one. Like, I know 1-7 is, your standard or most common, but, I didn't know really the differences. So I think that there's probably a lot of people that kind of fall within that same category. So I appreciate you giving me that brief explanation there.
As it relates to hunting, and Derik, give a comment here. When you look at barrel twist, because I get this question a lot, what's best, what's not, you can't have both accuracy and high terminal ballistics. And Derik, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but these are always, what's the most accurate and the most devastating round? And the answer is, for more accuracy, and I guess maybe Derik, you take it and comment on it.
Well, I think that you really have to weigh in, like if you're looking at, it depends on what your point of accuracy is too. Are we talking a 350 Legend that's only going to go out 300 yards? Are we talking a 6.5 Creedmoor that can reach the 1,000-yard club?
Sure.
So, and then you got to look at the allowances for the projectile within that caliber. And so if you're going for a heavy grain projectile, you're not going to want as tight of a twist. because that's going to start spinning that weight into a form where it starts rocking the boat per se, and you start getting those sideways flyers, things like that.
Sure.
That's when you really gotta. It's a formula, it really is, and you really gotta do the research. I tell a lot of customers that have questions pertaining to it. I'm like, hey, I'm a wealth of knowledge. I don't mind giving it away for free, but for you to understand and know how you want to shoot and what you want to shoot, you really got to do the research for yourself.
Sure, because each application is going to have different,
absolutely
different things that you need to consider. Yeah. Well, luckily, we shouldn't have to worry about this too much longer because it looks like we got David Chipman nominated for the ATF director. And he's looking like a good candidate. I mean, currently he's employed by the Giffords Gun Control Group. Before that, he was a member of the Everytown Gun Safety. So, yeah, what do you guys think about David Chipman?
Derik, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I can go first. I'll try and keep it as black and white as possible and not put too much color into it. But David Chipman, I'm actually at odds with that statement. I think that he wants to over-regulate something that needs to be left alone. I think that regulation is only going to hinder law-abiding citizens while having those that are illegally obtaining firearms be able to maintain getting those firearms by putting things like enacting regulation such as serials for both the upper and lower receivers of the AR platform, or him saying in front of the Senate committee, saying that he wants to outlaw any rifle with a removable magazine over 22 caliber.
That's insane.
That is absolute insanity. And I think all he's trying to do is wedge a knife in an already overregulated environment, especially if you're a constitutionalist and believe in the actual statement as it's stated and not try and water it down into your own manipulation. I think what he's doing is, and I think it's just going to create more diversity, and it's going to destroy a lot of small business in that outcome, because I could honestly foresee him enacting these kind of regulations and then throwing audits everywhere.
Well, the thing with guys like him, and first off, what you just referred back to, which was the AR-15, I'm just going to repeat it so that our viewers know, because I did mention it in the last podcast, but in case they didn't hear it, David Chipman testified in front of Congress just a few days ago, and he was asked to define assault weapon. And his definition of assault weapon was any firearm that accepts a detachable magazine over the caliber of 22. And if you own anything that's higher than a 22, your mind is probably blowing right now, because it just doesn't make any sense at all. My problem with David Chipman is the man is just completely untrustworthy. You look at a guy who was involved in the Waco incident, and whether or not the independent fact checkers want to say that it's true or not, there's a fact check going around saying that there's a post of him standing in front of some, building on fire, and that's false. What's true is that during that time, David Chipman told reporters that 2 helicopters were downed with 50 caliber rounds from the Branch Davidians, that they had downed 2 helicopters with 50 cals. That was a blatant lie. That never happened. Why would you lie about something that's going to be so easily proven to be inaccurate? He lied about it, and I'll tell you why. He lied because that was an instance where the federal government absolutely abused their power, killed innocent people, and he felt he needed to lie to be able to sway public opinion to take the heat off of them. And somebody that's okay with doing that and lying to the public, I don't trust them to regulate anything in the firearms industry at all.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's frustrating on a few fronts. Number one, I get personally, really aggravated. I think when they put out, to your point, misinformation. I mean, because that's a big hurdle, right? So they put out there these credible, air quotes, credible sources put out and make a statement. And then the mainstream, news agencies and so forth run them, and then they're on social media and whatnot. So then you've got a, hindsight, a known lie that's put out there as the truth. So then us as the consumer got to, one, determine if that source is credible or not, which is a hurdle in itself. Two, decide if we agree or disagree with that. And to the extent that we don't agree with that comment, then three, we've got to go find an alternative source for us to go figure out the truth.
Yeah, and a lot of the problem is that when they do these types of things and they have these, credible sources, most of the times they don't even source them. They just say an anonymous source or our professionals or our experts say. And it's like, you didn't even actually tell me anything. What you've done is you've published an opinion piece and acted like it's a fact. And then you back it up with your own paid fact checkers to squash anything that opposes your ideology. And it's absolutely insane.
Look up the definition of gaslighting. It's exactly what they do. They sit there, they lie to you, they echo chamber that lie to the point where the ones who don't care to research or find their own truth will blindly agree, and those who know the truth or are going after and trying to research it, once they obtain the truth and try and preach it on their own platform, they wind up looked at as the enemy, of the people in that aspect, enemy of truth.
Yeah.
Or their truth anyways.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about lies for a second. There's been a record number of people join the firearms industry. I'm talking new gun owners within the last 2 years, an insane amount of people. Why do you think those people have bought firearms in the last couple of years?
I think so. My honest belief to that is because they know the truth. They know that the government and the mainstream media and I should say certain factions. Well, no, I would say all factions of the government, because right now we're seeing the lies of both sides. There is no innocent party in this. And regardless of what party affiliation you are, there's good and there's bad in both. And we are seeing that firsthand. So, and I think the American people as a whole, they don't believe what the government, what the mainstream media is telling them. They don't believe and they shouldn't. And for not being able to believe a government and seeing them start to turn into a tyrannical banana republic.
Yeah, exactly.
It will cause even the most I won't say the most liberal, but even the most what am I looking for? A person that would normally not want to defend themselves through a self-defense means as far as firearms will even cause them to.
Or Derik, let me stop you. Derik, let me stop you real quick because we dropped Connor got dropped off the call. Let us give him a call real quick.
Hey, are you there?
Man, I didn't know you weren't enjoying it that much. We'll let you talk now. Sorry about that.
You guys on the phone still?
Yeah, we're still on.
Man, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I was like, God, I thought maybe you just got tired of listening.
No.
Sorry about that.
Well, Derik, I think you're exactly right. Part of it is the public is just kind of seeing the blatant corruption and the one-sided goal of the government, along with the absolute unrest and, first off, the federal government's assistance in allowing these riots to happen and continue over a long period of time, which we all knew was under fake premises of, racial tensions and stuff like that, all things that are being flared up by the media, all things that are not actually present in large scales. Sure, there might still be some little patches where you have problems with race and stuff like that, but society as a whole And the United States as a whole doesn't have an issue with that. But yet they continue. Joe Biden said yesterday that white supremacy is America's number one threat. So that's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing that the American population seeing these blatant attacks against our own citizens, trying to create this division amongst us, allowing rioters to not be prosecuted, to get released from jail, get their bonds paid for by celebrities. And that's why these people are running out and buying firearms, in my opinion. But David Chipman, our nominee for ATF, well, he's saying that they're getting firearms for end-of-time scenarios and zombie apocalypses. That's a direct quote from David Chipman. More things he said is they might think that they're die-hard ready to go, but unfortunately they're more like Tiger King and they're putting themselves and their family in danger. Secure that gun, lock it up, unload it, and hide it behind the cans of tuna and beef jerky that you have stored in a cabinet and only bring that out if the zombies start to appear. That's the guy who they want being the director of the ATF. And I just can't help but think, how numb can you be to the reality of what the vast majority of Americans are feeling? They feel unsafe.
I had a phone call today, actually, and I'm mimicking one yesterday. Very, very, very similar. I mean, it's a very regular occurrence. We sell quite a bit of night vision, and it's more common that every single day someone calls in and says, "Hey, Connor," or "Hey, whomever at Foxhole, I see what's going on. I'm very concerned about it. I have a lot of misinformation, whether it's, the COVID stuff or whatever. In general, they're feeling as though there's a lot of misinformation. They're concerned and they all want to protect their family." And the call today was, "Hey, if in the off chance something crazy happens, I want some night vision, or I want this particular firearm, or I want something so that I can help my family." Never is it a malicious intent,
Right.
Hey, I want to go, do X, Y, or Z. I mean, first off, we're not telling those guys. Second off, we don't, interact with them. Thirdly, these guys just want to protect themselves. And it's not just male, it's female. They just want to protect their family, and that's it. And it's been a very interesting shift because we live up here in, just outside of Omaha. I live in Nebraska, rural based. And it's a community that is, rural, maybe for a reason, maybe not, but they like to kind of just be left alone. And times like this, it is crazy to see, for me, the older women that just get panicky and scared. And you see the riots in Omaha, and you see the riots that are going around. And thankfully, we didn't really have much at all in town. But it's had a very big impact on a lot of people that otherwise probably would not be in the firearms community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you said that there's been, it's not just men buying these firearms. That is so true. There has been a huge uptick in women that are going out and buying firearms, buying handguns for the first time. These are first-time background checks during their during the last couple of years to purchase firearms coming from women. And I just think that speaks volumes, and I'm glad to get them into the industry. Come on, let's get everybody in all we can. I mean, every person that signs up, even if it's out of fear, you know what? At least they appreciate the fact that they currently live in a country where they can arm themselves and defend their family. And if they didn't before, maybe now these 10 million plus new gun owners will start trying to help us back the Second Amendment a little bit.
So, Jeff,
Absolutely.
It was interesting. I remember vividly it was a Friday when those Capitol riots happened. I don't remember the exact date, like it was the 5th or 4th or something. Either way, on a Friday, I got a phone call from James, my partner in the gun store. And he goes, "Are you at a computer?" And I said, "No." "What's going on?" He's like, the world is falling apart. Jeff, in that Thursday to Monday, we did just under $600,000 in ammo, $600,000 worth of ammo sales alone.
Yep.
In a 4-day span.
Yep, I believe it.
And it didn't stop.
Yeah.
So much so that it was remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was every reason that people, and it's funny. I have a couple very good friends who are, ordinarily anti-2A, and they called and they said, "Hey, Connor, can I borrow some of your guns? And I'm like, no, you can't borrow any guns.
Nope.
We can sell you guns.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do I go about doing that? And it just spurred this mad rush of people that went, and got their concealed carry cards, or they went and got their, the permit to purchases. And I think for the first time, from my perspective, at least with my friend base that is historically anti this, they had no idea just how hard it actually was to buy firearms. And from January until about the middle to end of March, it didn't stop.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Wow. Yeah. No, I've heard similar stories like that, to where during that time period, I mean, sales were just crazy. I mean, there were guys that shut down their website because they couldn't keep up with website sales. Like, they had so much traffic coming through the door, they physically couldn't fill online orders, so they just shut the website down completely.
Man, we were doing close to 300 orders a day there for a period of time, and we had so much web traffic. We physically had to spin up our own servers because we got booted off our hosting network because of just the sheer volume. We were having, 10 to 30,000 people a day coming to our website. It was pretty interesting.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, so let's talk about some good news though. Iowa in July, I think it's July 1st, you guys are allowing constitutional carry. Is that correct? Look like we got a bill signed there.
Yes.
All right. So I say that's good news because I'm, pro 2A. I think that every American should have the right to defend themselves. And carry, I'm for less regulation. I know that some people within the industry feel a little bit differently about, having to get permitted to be able to conceal carry. And let's just be honest, it's because it's a revenue source, right? I mean, you have people that teach classes, the training is good, everybody needs to train and learn how to use their firearms. But personally, I like seeing these states adopt this constitutional carry. But for you guys, it's a little bit interesting because here in Texas, we can do private sales. I can sell a firearm to, a friend of mine or a neighbor, I can do a private sale. But in Iowa, you guys are not allowed to do that without going through the background check and permit applications. Is that right?
Actually, you can do a civilian to civilian sale, and the way that they structure that, or the way that, and I'm not going to quote verbatim, but so long as you trust that from the questions between 9 and 23 that they ask on the 4473, so long as you trust that they are within the same guidelines that would be instilled on a NICS check, you can commit to a private sale.
Okay. That clears things up for me a little bit because I was reading about y'all's constitutional carry law, and each state that's done this, I think there's about 20 states now that have jumped on this bandwagon. Texas being the latest one. We just got it passed like last week, but it's not going to come into effect for us until September 1st. Each state has their own little, spin-offs of it and guidelines they got to follow by. And so I was trying to follow up on yours, and some of the Democratic objections to it were, well, now private sales won't have to go through a background check process. And that just made me think that you guys weren't able to do private sales amongst individuals, but it sounds like that was false. It sounds like another false claim, or just a Democrat trying to complain about whatever they can.
Right. I do know that was a complaint, but as it is, I do not know of an amendment to that as of right now, but I'll have to do some more research and find out for sure. But as of today, I know that's how we do private, or that is how you can do a private sale.
Gotcha.
But July 1st being, revamped to this constitutional carry.
Gotcha.
It could be that could be a change that I did not see or need to follow up on. So
sure.
Derik, comment on, because Jeff, I'm not sure if you're aware of this as well either. When a person walks in the store, we simply cannot, Derik, you're more informed on this than I am, but there's still an element of, you're still going through background checks. You're still filling out some level of paperwork. explain from an Iowa standpoint what it means to just simply have, you basically just don't have to get the permit to purchase.
Right. So I actually, and I don't know how other people feel about this. This is my own opinion. But when I have a customer come in and they start asking me about this new constitutional carry, I inform them that they don't need a permit to purchase a pistol. You just need to be of the age of 21 or older from this point forward. However, if you were to go and you were to get a permit to purchase, and that is aside from the permit to carry, actually, I'm going to back up a little bit. Let's break it down to what a permit to carry is in the state of Iowa. A permit to carry currently is a permit to be able to carry both open or concealed.
Sure.
So, and a permit to purchase would be just the opportunity to purchase a pistol in the state of Iowa.
Gotcha.
With no class needed in order to obtain said permit.
Sure.
So moving forward to that, if you, with the constitutional carry being enacted on January 1, you are now able to carry concealed, but not open carry. So you would still need a permit to carry open.
Sure.
But you can carry concealed.
Gotcha.
So what I inform people is, hey, we don't know where, but really when you look at all the HRs that are going through the Senate and or the House right now, we don't know how many regulations they're going to try and enact on a NICS check. So it would behoove most of the individuals in the state of Iowa to still commit to a permit to purchase at very least, because now you're still only having to do one background check every 5 years,
right?
As opposed to every time you buy a pistol. Yeah, you don't need that permit, but you're still having to go through a federal background check at that point.
Sure. Yeah, you still have to do your background checks. What I was saying about not having to do that stuff was pertaining strictly to private sales. Of course, if somebody comes into your shop, yeah, they're still going to have to go through the background checks and stuff like that. And I believe they would still have to get the permit to purchase, correct? But they just don't need the permit to carry anymore. No, that bill did away with both of those?
Right. So
Gotcha.
The bill does away with having to need a permit to purchase in order to obtain a pistol.
Gotcha.
But they still have to go through a federal NICS check.
Gotcha.
For every purchase now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Iowa's going to benefit from that. I mean, that's how we're doing it down here in Texas. We've been doing it that way for a long time. It's worked out well for us so far.
Absolutely. No, I was a resident of Texas for quite a while when I was in the military. So if there's one thing I loved about being down there, it was how you guys feel about your Second Amendment, right? So.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. Hey, Connor, real quick, we talked a little bit offline earlier today, and you had mentioned that one of the big problems that you guys have struggled with has been the discrimination against the firearms industry within financial institutes. Give me a little bit of background on that. What are some things that you've came up against as far as just trying to operate a firearms business?
Yeah, and that's a great point. It's funny because I bring it up to family and friends. Everyone just sees what's out there, and what's out there is they're going after these assault weapon bans and all this other stuff, which I obviously disagree with. But the real win here, I guess, for the anti-gun people, is that while they might not be making national headlines and banning certain things, they are doing a very good job within a lot of these financial and payment processing institutions. So without naming big names, there's the better part of half a dozen processors that at one point we were allowed to process through that we no longer can, simply because we're a firearms store. And it's, there's a lot of guys selling, just thermal and night vision stuff. And I think they've largely been okay. But I know for us, as soon as you have an FFL and you're a legit store, it becomes very tough.
They drop the hammer on you.
Oh, they dropped the hammer, and you quickly find out the fine print disclosures that are in the documents that you signed. When there's things that happen, basically the political environment, the political risk is what's causing these guys a lot of pause. And so at the banks are generally, risk adverse. And a lot of people that get into banking are generally risk adverse. And so what we found is that some institutions are more open to this, some aren't. Companies, it's a good feather in a lot of these companies' hats to say, hey, we stand behind, the assault weapons ban, and hey, we stand behind, the woke society.
Right.
And we're not allowing credit card processing for firearm stores, and we're not allowing that. So while they might not be making national headlines, with their bans, they certainly are putting strain on us.
Yeah.
And, we're in the process of moving some stuff around purely as a result of that. So
yeah,
it's becoming tougher.
Well, and that discrimination ramped up big time when Obama initiated Operation Choke Point. Not a lot of people really understood what that was, but it set parameters for financial institutions to be able to discriminate against certain industries, and the firearms industry was one of them. And you saw a bunch of people lose the ability to process transactions and have to find other avenues for that. And, PayPal turned against the firearms industry so quick. And it's one of those things that happens on large scale and affects a whole lot of people within the industry, but doesn't get the news coverage because it's not something that directly affects the end user, right? So they talk about the gun bans because that's going to affect your ability to buy a gun, but they don't talk about the choking of being able to do business of a gun manufacturer or a firearms dealer. Because it's not, there's a segue between the business they do to the actual end user. They kind of keep that under wraps, and it's just going on in the background. And the general consumer doesn't know that that's happening. They don't know about the struggles. They don't know that a lot of times to process a credit card, you guys are paying a higher percentage than most other institutes just because the guys who offer a lower percentage on credit card transactions won't do business with you.
Funny you say that. Our current credit card processor, who we're in the process of moving away from, is sitting on a couple $100,000 of our cash simply because we're a gun store, and we've been fighting that for a few months. And it seems to me that they're going to continue to carry that into perpetuity. And they made it clear that it's because we're a gun store, because they can. That's why they put the fine print in there. And if they can hold a couple $100,000 from us to make our life, tougher, then they're going to do it. And so, that's one facet. The other facet is, you mentioned PayPal. Purely off of speculation alone, they had indication, which was not true, that we were processing through, firearms and ammo. We were not. But they froze our account. And at the end of the thing, they did not give us the ability to fight it. And they simply moved our cash into their account. Said, hey, you violated our terms. We're not going to give you the right to defend yourself. Sue us if you want. And they just took our cash.
Wow. Here in Texas, we just passed a law. We just passed a bill that was, what was it? The FIND Act, the Firearms Industry Non-Discriminatory Act. And basically what it said was that no tax dollars for the state of Texas will go to these financial institutions if they are discriminating against, the firearms industry. Is there any kind of talks like that for Iowa? Do you guys have any sign of any glimmers of hope?
Right now, the Iowa Gun Owners Association is putting up quite the front for our state legislation to pass a couple of different bills. One of them being the one that you guys just passed, the Hearing Act, where as long as the suppressor was created in the state of Texas, then you don't need to pay the tax stamp in order to obtain.
Yeah,
which I think is amazing. I want that so bad. But anyways, I know that is one that they're trying to push.
Well, you're not going to have that.
I haven't heard of any industry discrimination acts that they're trying to push, but it sounds like IGO is kind of more on the user end of the industry and not so much on the industry professionals. Right. So I don't know of any. I haven't heard of any And but I would love to see something like that get started. Maybe I'll have to.
Well, if you guys are going to pass something, if you guys are going to pass something on local suppressors, you better do it quick, because I'll tell you, David Chipman's view on suppressors is they are a dangerous device that make guns sound like a nail gun. What an idiot.
He's obviously never worked with a suppressor.
No.
Yeah, they don't make it that quiet, man. There's some cans out there you still need to use some ear pro on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe for a small caliber pistol, or maybe a 223 that's loaded subsonic, you're going to get pretty quiet, but come on. I mean,
18-inch barrel.
Yeah, this is insane for him to be saying. So anyway, I'm sorry. I keep getting routed back around to this guy. Let's change topics real quick, guys. We got about 10 minutes here. What I'd like to do is you guys keep talking about thermal and night vision. Tell me a story. One of you guys got to have a good story about predator hunting. Somebody got something?
We've got a lot of stories, man. I spent a lot of time sitting in dark fields by myself. My wife's always wondering what the hell I'm doing, but I go out there and call coyotes, and man, it's a blast out here. Ag land, everything is pretty well wide open. I mean, I lived in Texas for about 5 years. My sister's still down there. I love it down there, but up here, it's a tad different. Farmers farm end to end. Fields are very open. So most of our shots and stuff like that are we're calling from quite a different, quite a ways out there.
Yeah.
As it relates to thermal and night vision, I guess good stories. Called in a mountain lion last year. That was a little scary.
Were you on the ground with him?
There on it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I walked on water to get back to my truck, man. I was gone. And so I was sitting out there on the corner of this hog barn. I'm in livestock as well. I was sitting on the corner of this hog barn calling into a field, and I had a couple dogs. And then I hear this kind of thing hit the ground. And I'm saying to myself, I mean, when you're in the dark and, you're calling predators, you can hear things that probably aren't legit.
Right.
And I'm like, come on. And then I turn around and there's a straight up cat. And, yeah, I remember I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way that cannot be a cat. And, it was still a couple hundred yards off, but it was kind of, I don't know, house cats, how they kind of crawl at you a little bit.
Oh yeah.
This thing was doing its little crawl. And when it was doing that, I mean, I packed up and was gone.
So imagine a house cat crawling towards you across your darkly lit living room, except for you're in a field out in the middle of nowhere at nighttime, and that cat is the size of a small bear.
Oh man, that thing! I remember. I mean, there's been plenty of those stories that a lot of guys that are going to be listening to this are in similar boats, or you're calling in bobcats, or you're calling in mountain lions, or anytime you call in something other than what you're intending on calling, it can get a little hairy.
Yeah.
No, and then the other time, very similar to that, mountain lions make this very distinct kind of whistle type deal, and that was, heard that again last. I'm 2 for 2, and I frankly don't care to see another one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, so night vision and thermal hunting were also kind of on my list of things that I didn't know a ton about when I came into the firearms industry. When I got really involved in the firearms industry, I didn't know a ton about them. Most of the night hunting that I had done, we had pigs at my place, but I'm talking about putting on a green lens on my spotlight and shooting as fast as I can before they all run off, So I was not as knowledgeable then as I am now. My question for you guys would be, if there's a new person coming in, maybe they've owned a couple of firearms, but they've never gotten into night hunting, but they want to start, digital optics, whether it's night vision or thermal, are getting super popular. What's your advice to somebody that wants to get into night vision hunting for the first time? Yeah.
So, and again, that's a very common question that we receive. Obviously it's budget specific, but usually, my advice is always just start somewhere. If you currently have nothing and you just want to get into it, what's your experience been? Have you hunted with anybody? Have you gone out and just tried it? and then they make the commitment to purchase. And my comment is start with something, and then quickly figure out what you like and what you don't like. The absolute best valued products in my mind, those Sightmark rates are phenomenal. The Digix, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good starter, products. I think a lot of guys, they look at the thermal and it's like, man, you got to spend, $4,000 or $5,000 to get going on this thing. And the answer is you really don't. I mean, I've spent many, many years, just with a very basic, night vision optic, better than a decade ago. And, they work fantastic. So just get a rifle, get a race, get a Digix or similar, and just go sit out there and learn how to call. I mean, the reality is that when you start coyote calling, hog hunting aside, because we don't have any of those up here, but coyote calling, I mean, I think I went the first 3 years and I don't even think I called anything. Like you're sitting in a field and you're making calls and you're like, God, I remember me and my two buddies and we were just getting so hung up because we're like, man, we suck. Like, we absolutely suck. We haven't seen a dang coyote. We can't call it. Like, we're reading these forums, and we're just, like, we're so geared up. You know what I mean? Like, you get the camo on, and you get, all your rigs and stuff, and you're in the pickup, and we drive out, and we sit there, and we just screwed it up for basically the first 3 years.
Yep. I mean,
and go ahead.
I've done the same thing. Yep. Same thing. When I first started, I was the same thing. I got out there. I had a little Primos call, and I was trying to call it and didn't see anything. I sat in one spot for like 40 minutes trying to call up a coyote and no luck. And the great thing about failing is it's a great opportunity to never make those mistakes again.
Oh, it's true. I mean, we were listening to podcast after podcast after podcast, and like YouTube, and just trying to figure it out, man. And it was, I mean, it's been I've been hunting my whole life, and I remember when you start doing the coyote thing, I remember I tell my, wife it now, but not at the time. And it's like, yeah, we went out. I think we saw a couple. And she's like, so one time she came out, she's like, let me get this straight. So you guys dress up in camouflage, go sit in fields at night and call no coyotes. She's like, how does that feel? You just wasted like 6 hours. I'm like, just keep rubbing it in,
That's hilarious. Yeah, for me, I mean, you talk about not starting off on, going with the max dollar amount. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to get into this. That's so true. And there's a lot of guys that feel like they have to. And part of that is they jump on Facebook. Everybody's getting their research from Facebook these days. They jump on Facebook groups and they ask people like, hey, what do you think about this? And they completely crap all over something that might be a really good product because they have used something that is better. And yeah, it might be better. It might be a Thermion XG50 is going to be amazing. That's going to blow your mind. But guess what? If you've only used your grandpa's Bushnell, 30-30 lever action rifle, a basic digital night vision rifle scope, your first time out using that is going to be amazing to you. There's nothing wrong with starting off on the lower end of things and then working your way up. And these items typically, tend to hold a pretty good value when looked into comparison with how fast new ones come out. So it's nothing to be able to get rid of your unit and upgrade when you think you're ready to do that. But you mentioned the Wraith, and the Wraith has been wildly successful for us because we have it at a great price point. I think the majority of the public gets them around $600, retail all day. And you talk about somebody that might want to get into night hunting, but doesn't want to spend thousands of dollars. You can get you a Sightmark Wraith and a good gun rest, whether that's Kofiager or any other brand. You can get you a Wraith and a good gun rest for under $1,000 and be set up ready to go night hunting. And I'm not trying to compare the Wraith to some low budget optic because it's not. This thing, the Wraith looks better in real life. I wish my real life looked like it does when I look through the Wraith 4K. That thing is awesome.
I was just saying that 4-16 by 32 magnification is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, well, you look at, so I had a few different optics out last weekend. I was demoing for a buddy of mine that was, he's wanting to get into it. Didn't know, I mean, similar situation as everybody else that walks in the door. And I took some race over, and you throw a good IR light behind that thing, and it is phenomenal, and it's just tough to beat. You ended up buying a couple of them. They're great for backup guns. They're great for buddy guns. They're great for, all around, very, very, very good way to get going into hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're looking at, not spending a ton of money. I think they're awesome. The technology that's going into optics now is just getting better every single day. And for me, from where I grew up from to what I'm playing with now it blows my mind, because I'm like, I would have never thought this was I can get a rifle. I can get a full color daytime rifle scope that also has 2 night vision modes. I can record. You're talking about being able to record video and audio to save those memories forever. I've got a son who's 2, and I guarantee you, as soon as he's able to hold up a rifle, we will be in the stand. And even full color daytime, when he shoots his first deer, I'm going to have that recorded and saved forever. That's just amazing.
They're fun. Well, and I've been known to use those recordings a little bit too, because I'll shoot it, a dog, and it, you don't always hit them perfect the first time, and kind of runs off. You're like, I wonder if I actually dropped that thing. You go back and check out the video, and
dogs are coyotes.
Go grab it,
for those of you who are not familiar. Dogs are coyotes.
Yeah.
We're not hunting Labradors out there.
Here.
They're like, God, these guys are shooting house cats and dogs and everything. I don't know what's going on. I don't know about this firearms industry. It's as bad as they say it is.
We're going to be painting ourselves in a corner here. The reality is they're awesome, man. It's good to go back and figure out if you can't find something and that you shot her. But my favorite part is just, kind of ribbing your buddies. We all make good shots. We all make bad shots. And I just like the memories, and then it pops up on your phone as a memory, and you send it off to a buddy and start the crap talking circle. And man, some of my best memories in life all revolve around hunting, largely because it's just, you're out in the wild. You're not thinking about anything other than that.
Exactly.
And it's, try to explain that to someone. You're literally not thinking about anything, because that's all you're doing.
Right.
And just a total mental refresh. And anytime I get a chance to get out, hunt, shoot, fish, anything, that's what I'm doing.
I appreciate you guys powdering my butt here for this last 10 minutes. For Foxhole, how do people find you guys? What's the best way to find you guys?
Yeah, so foxholearmament.com is our website. We have a retail store, hopefully opening another location here in the very near future. But yeah, located just outside of Omaha in Iowa, hopefully opening up a Nebraska store here for too long. Otherwise, website, Facebook, socials, we're on all of the above.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate the time. You guys take it easy.
Appreciate you, Jeff. It's been an absolute blast.